What's going on, guys? It's Christopher Balmaceda here, and I have shot this video probably 10 times. I have not been able to keep it under 10 minutes, so I'm going to try this one last time. I apologize if it's long-winded, but it's actually super important, this information I'm bringing to you. It's not real estate related, so I'll start off with that. So stick around and hear what I have to say, because we're actually talking about what's inside this little envelope here. For those of you that don't know, the ballot is in here. I'm on the early voting ballot list. So I have my ballot in here for everything that's going to be voted on coming up here. And there's something specifically on this ballot, and I believe on every ballot, no matter where you live, that is super important that I want to get across to you guys. If you've been driving around town, you've seen it anywhere from Mesa to Surprise, Phoenix to Gilbert to Goodyear to Peoria, Glendale. Like, these signs are everywhere regarding the school district override. And I want to, I guess, educate you guys on what this actually means and the importance behind it. Because I've noticed a trend when things come up for the schools, there's not a lot of education out there. There's not a lot of information that's put out there regarding why it's important that it passes. And historically speaking, these overrides have always passed, but I've heard and seen there's a lot more contention regarding this one because of what happened a couple years ago regarding Red for Ed, and so many people that were contending that and didn't want that and didn't like that are now pushing to not allow the schools to get any more funding and things like that. And this is something that affects us personally here in my household, and I know several other households around us as well. So I want to educate you guys and get the information out there because I had to dig to find it and get that information. So specifically speaking for the district that we're in, I know that they're asking for a 2% increase, and what we're losing if this doesn't pass is huge. If it does not pass, the school district's losing $26 million a year, which means they're going to cut extracurriculars such as art, music, physical education, sports activities, special education, and gifted education get impacted as well. If you have a kid that participates in any of those, especially with the sports activities, like playing for a school team, that means you now are going to have to pay out of pocket to continue to fund that and continue to help that move forward. Something else that gets lost is all-day kindergarten. For those that aren't familiar, kindergarten is not free. It's not worked into the budget. So if this doesn't pass, that means people that want their kids in all-day kindergarten now have to pay to fund that monthly in order for their kid to be involved in that program. We've got somebody who's getting ready to start kindergarten next year, so it's kind of important to us as well. We also, staffing-wise, are looking at losing our vice principals. From my understanding, vice principals are kind of the individuals that handle safety and security at the school. They deal with any problems that arise and make sure that they get handled and taken care of and everybody's safe. That's huge. Safety and security, we know, is a big deal for our kids, and we don't want to lose that or run that risk of losing that. There's also a risk of losing teachers, which means if we lose teachers, we have to now shuffle more kids into classrooms, which means our already overcapacity classrooms get even more overcapacity, which means our teachers now have even less ability to give individualized attention, which means our kids suffer even more in the classroom. And lastly, there's the risk of losing nurses, a medical professional that's there to assist our kids. If they get hurt, if something were to happen, that gets lost. And if you by chance have a kid that has a medical condition, you know that the nurse is necessary to help administer medication that's needed. And if we lose that, you now are putting trust and faith in the fact that somebody there on staff is going to monitor and keep an eye on this to make sure that these kids get these medications they need, but also are going to be able to handle and stabilize the situation if a medical emergency arises. So that's what we run the risk of losing if this does not pass. Now, how does this impact you? How does this impact me? I know, specifically speaking for our district, we're looking at anywhere from a $2 to $6 a month increase on our property taxes, which on the low end, that equates to $24 a month. I'm sorry, $24 a year. $2 a month, $24 a year. For me, $24 a year is nothing to make sure that my kids continue to be involved in art, which they love, band and choir, which they love, and continue to get the gifted education support that they need and that they're involved in now, as well as to make sure that they have the safety, security, and the medical attention they need when they need it. also keeps them in a situation where they don't have to worry about sharing their teacher's attention with more students. $24 a year is nothing to me to make sure that my kids get what they need. And I know several other families out there feel the exact same. Now, if you by chance are still on the fence about it, or you're opposed to it, whatever the case may be, that's your right, and I'm not here to tell you, like, shame on you for not voting yes on this. Once again, just trying to educate you, hoping I get something across to you that makes sense. I do ask that you do your own research and you look it up on your own. Obviously, this is my opinion. We have the little pamphlets that give everybody else's opinion. I ask that you don't make your opinion based off what others are saying, but you go out and educate yourself on it as well. For those of you that may be thinking, well, I don't have kids that are in school. Like, why does this matter to me? My kids are grown, or I don't have kids at all. I ask you one thing. Are you a grandparent or an aunt and uncle, a cousin? Do you have younger siblings? Do you maybe have friends that have school-age kids? If you say yes to that, then this does in a roundabout way impact you. This impacts your grandkids or your niece and nephew, or your cousins or your younger siblings or your friends' kids. This does impact them, so in a way it impacts you as well. So keep that in mind when looking at this information or hearing what I have to say. This is not just for those of us that have kids that are in school. It impacts a lot of us. So with all that, I do want to say this is not a political post. I do not want to see comments in the comment section on this video about, well, if the governor would do this, or the school districts would do that, or if the Democrats or Republicans would do this, or the president or Congress, or blah, 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 blah. This is not a political post. This is not something for us to be discussing or arguing about things. This is simply just to educate you guys on something that I feel there's not a lot of information out there about. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully I shared something with you that you weren't aware of. Don't forget to vote. It's important. Whether you vote yes or no, that is your right. Just please don't forget to vote. And all I ask is that you take what I've given you, you do your own research as well, and you vote the way that you feel you need to and that you feel is best for our school districts, our cities, our state, everything like that. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Sorry that it's long-winded. It was super important that I got this information out to you guys. You guys have a great rest of the week.